Well, hello, welcome to another Geospatial-Next talk. This one is focused on crypto. And in fact, I'm stealing a little bit from Raoul Pol's Real Vision title. He has a series called His Adventures in Crypto, but I'm going to call these talks that I'm doing in the crypto world Matt's Geospatial Adventures in Crypto. So I wanted to, in these talks, just really give you some sense of where I'm heading with this whole, my understanding of the crypto world and blockchain and Web3. So this is me on discovery, and I'm just going to share with you my journey and what are some of the things I'm finding out, and hopefully you find it interesting. So onwards. I wanted to start this talk with some definitions. Now these relate to crypto, but are also really related to what we've done as humankind for hundreds, thousands of years. So let's rattle you through three very quick definitions. What is value? Value is the assessed worth of an asset, good, or service exchange. Number two, what is trading? Trading is the exchange of one item of value with another. Number three, what is a marketplace? A marketplace is where items of value are exchanged. So three very important definitions, and these will be very relevant as we move through this talk. Let's go with something else. What is money? Something generally accepted as a medium of exchange, a measure of value, or means of payment. So money is actually relatively new. I actually, well, it goes back in time, but in the Americas, when America was settled, the east coast of America, those early settlers, they actually set up each state with its own monetary mechanism. Now in the US, obviously, we've got a single currency, which is the dollar. The UK's got the pound. There's a euro. It's an agreed medium of exchange. So X number of dollars is how I value something. What I didn't just mention, I've got it in the slide there, is money is usually centrally controlled. And we can talk at length about some of the details of money. I'm no expert at money, but I wanted that critical definition to be put in place because I wanted to talk about what is a token. Just from a generic definition of this, it's a voucher that can be exchanged for goods or services. It's often attached to a community or an organization. I'm often reminded of going to Disneyland and you exchange your dollars for essentially vouchers in that world. And we come across vouchers in all sorts of different places where we exchange one nationally denominated currency for something that's very specific to a particular organization. But it's still a representation and can be used as an exchange of value, or what we can be used to value things. Again, an important point I've noted there is usually tokens are not centrally controlled. So there is no Federal Reserve for tokens. And by the way, those that are watching in the US, I often chuckle about the fact it's called the Federal Reserve because the Federal Reserve is actually a group of private bankers that get together. So it has nothing to do with federal. That is somewhat misleading. Not sure if people realize that. Okay, moving on. Switching gears, let's go to the digital age. So diving deeper. And some of you are wondering, what's this to do with crypto? We're getting there. So the pre-digital age, I'm old enough to remember the age when I was born, we really didn't have computers. And if we did, they were very crude. So the world of digital and the world of computers is again incredibly recent, and the digital age really started to kick in at a certain period, and that's really, well, before we jump into that, let's talk about what is digitization. Digitization is the conversion of data into ones and zeros, and I often spent time wondering about that. What does that mean, ones and zeros? A representation of things. So the earliest incarnations of this were we digitized words, we digitized music, we digitized art, we digitized video. So there were some early things that we digitized and created them as ones and zeros. one of the aha moments for me when I was thinking about the fact we created a piece of art, for example, for ones and zeros, is when I did a painting, 𝐿𝐼𝐭𝐴ngelo did a painting, if he made any mistakes, they were very hard to correct. If he wanted to display it, it was displayed in one particular place. So couldn't be changed, couldn't be broken up into smaller pieces, and had to be shared in one particular place. Now, all right, we've copied those and shared it in other places, but what digitization means is we can create from that real world piece of art something that's a representation of it in ones and zeros. What does that mean? Well, we can change it. If that red is slightly off, we can change it by changing the pixel colors. We can chop off pieces of it and sell those as separate digital elements of the whole if we want to. That's particularly relevant to music. And we can distribute it everywhere. It doesn't matter where it sits, and we can share it with everybody on the planet, as against in an art gallery or in my front room if I've got a copy of it. So the digitization is critical to understand. We're actually reducing everything we see into ones and zeros. Okay. Digital comes of age. Now there's three things there: microcomputers, and again in the 80s. Actually, I don't remember in the 80s, but in the 90s I remember first seeing microcomputers. So we were beginning to get miniaturized computers that were most importantly accessible to more than just those that had deep pockets, big organizations, so we could actually have one on our desk. The early microcomputers were pretty big and pretty expensive, but it led the way to desktop computers. The web then kicked in and we had distributed computers, so we could actually connect a computer in Utah to a computer in Russia, which was actually the first website I ever saw, was actually a Russian website. And I was trying to understand, so I've got a window into someone's computer that's sitting in Russia, and then I realized we were connecting all these things. So the web brought around this connection of computers and sharing information. And then mobile took it to the next level, where we actually had microcomputers in our pockets, so we could walk around with computers. And that opened up a whole other era for us. But these things have popularized the digital world. But this is a critical part of this talk, actually. If we think about sort of where we are today with the digital world, it really enables us. So the real world is enabled by the digital world. So let's give a good example. Amazon's a great example of that. I want to buy something. Amazon allows me to access a book I'm looking for and simplifies the process of buying that book. So instead of being able to drive down to Barnes & Noble, finding it's not in stock, ordering it, coming home again, they made that process easier. They gave me a window into purchasing books, music, etc. So I still live in the real world. It's simplified certain things that I want to do, the digital world. And that's in a lot of cases. We can sit on YouTube and we can watch YouTube. So we live in that world where we're enabled by digital, but the world we're moving towards is really the real world and digital merging. Now I'm going to cover this in a lot more detail in other talks, but and this is particularly relevant to the geospatial world, but that separation of digital, the real world and digital, is going away over time, and we're kind of merging the worlds together. So keep that one in mind. This is not going to be the complete focus of this, but I wanted to mention that one. So let's talk about what I mean by the real world enabled by digital. And again, I took this from someone who was talking last week, who was in the crypto space. So I'm cribbing something from somebody else, but I captured what he was saying and I get that. So I needed to put it down. So if you think about a carpet, that's an asset. A car's an asset, a house is an asset. We live in a world of assets, but let's just focus on a carpet. So a carpet in your house has absolutely no value, zero. It's in your house. The only value it is to you because you like walking on and looking at it, that's it. But it has no value anywhere else. It only has value when it's in a marketplace. And when we talk about the early days of the internet and Amazon, well, eBay became very popular. eBay became an online marketplace. So we could actually see that carpet and say, oh, I would like to pay X amount for that carpet. So by putting it in a marketplace, that carpet immediately had some kind of value attached to it. And the value in eBay and in our current world in the US is the dollar. So we value that carpet by the number of dollars we would pay for it. But like I said in that as I was chatting just a moment ago, but the digital world only enables real world processes. So even though I can do all these things, there are still middlemen in this process. It's really the old business models that were in place are still in place. So for example, if I'm going to pay for something with a credit card or with cash, I've still got a bank or a credit card company somewhere in the mix. There are still all the existing middlemen that have been there before the digital age operating. So digital is enabled to do certain things quicker and easier, but the actual mechanisms to get those things done is pretty much similar to what it's always been. So the title of this one is The End of Real World Processes. This is where we start looking at crypto. So I want to take you on a little crypto journey here. So you've heard about NFTs. We are not going to talk about NFTs in this, but NFTs are digital assets. Just think of them as that. They're a picture that it's a digital picture. It isn't a Michelangelo picture. It's a digital picture. Someone's created it digitally, and actually it could have come from a non-digital source, but it's just a digital asset. Now, NFTs are only valuable if you put them in a marketplace, and we've now sprung up NFT marketplaces where value attached to those is in tokens. And again, we're not going to dive too deeply into tokens. I gave you a definition of tokens, but the crypto world operates on a tokenized basis, and we're moving towards a tokenized economy. But the value of an NFT is based on tokens, not on dollars. Now, NFTs are generally, if I want to buy an NFT, generally I would trade it. There's an auto execution of that trade. I don't call up the person or communicate with that person, say, can I buy your NFT, and go back and forth. There's a contract in place, which is more often than not a smart contract. And if I wanted to buy that digital asset, then it's executed against a smart contract, which sits, and you can guess, on the blockchain. So we've automated the whole process here. We have an NFT, which is a digital asset, which sits on the blockchain. We have a marketplace where I can find NFTs, which gives those NFTs value, and I can buy them with tokens. That marketplace is attached to the blockchain. Any transaction that happens is recorded on the blockchain. And the contract, which allows me to buy the NFT, to execute that sale, if you like, is also on the blockchain. So everything sits in the blockchain. I spoke about middlemen a moment ago. There's no middlemen here. Everything is automated, everything is digital, and everything has it on its foundationally is on the blockchain. Okay, the last slide, actually the penultimate slide, geospatial example. Now I'm going to stretch this one. These are my first thoughts here. Well, not my first thoughts, but I'm beginning to expand my thinking when it comes to geospatial. So let's pull some of these things together. So we spoke about value. Now, I was chatting with a friend of mine the other day who's in the geospatial world, and we both were talking about the fact that in reality, I hear others talking about the fact that most people want to take data and get information from data. In reality, people want answers. They don't actually, the information, okay, really people want answers to questions. That's ultimately what the goal is. Give me a quick answer. That's very valuable to people. So marketplaces in this particular case will be, where can I find an answer to this question? Let's keep going on that line of thinking. Now, the method of exchange we've already spoken about is digital tokens. We're not talking in terms of dollars or pounds or euros. And the execution and storage of everything related to any transactions and any of the assets actually that we're talking about here is stored in one place. Now, I've got to be careful here. I'm just using this example. Actually, the blockchain is distributed. So when I say one place, it's one access point where I can find out everything about, whatever I need to find out about. So in this case, the transactions that happens, the questions that got answered, that's all stored in one place. So let's color the picture with this. Let's think about the finance industry. So guys that do traders, and I don't know very much about that world, but I do know that there are guys that want to know if the wheat crop is going to fail this year because they're taking bets on it. So if they can get advanced information or insight into what's actually happening to those crops, then they make better trades. Their bets are better bets. They're more informed. So if those guys if they had that question and they wanted to find an answer to that, in the crypto world, in our world today, that's a tough place for them to go to. I don't know if there are mechanisms even to answer that question in the way that I'm going to talk about it. So we've got digital marketplaces where there are distributed applications provided by companies, dApps, which will answer that question. And maybe it's just a single question. I just want that question answered. Tell me every month how that percentage chance of failure this year of that particular crop. So companies that are in the geospatial space and in the space economies are part of this. We can actually use SAR. There are some companies that are using radar to actually look at the ground. They can study all sorts of things from SAR and from sensors on the ground, moisture content, height of crops, health of roots, etc. There's lots of things that they can analyze. So companies will be gathering those data sets together. They'll be using machine learning to analyze those data sets and make predictions on the likelihood of wheat crop success or failure in multiple places, in the biggest wheat areas in the world, wherever that particular place is that they're looking at, and it could be globally. So the token provider will be from the provider. So again, there will be a token that will be exchanged, and these tokens, again, I'm not going to go into tokens, but tokens could live in one world, be exchangeable in a different world. So you could go from an Ethereum token to blockchain token, whatever. There's exchanges that are being built now, so you're not locked into one exchange world. Getting too deep there, and I've just mentioned the fact that if this dApp, if this company that's building this distributed application has built it on top of this Ethereum blockchain foundation, then that's the blockchain this would sit on. I really want you to think through what I've just spoken about there, and some of this terminology I'm using, go look up. So I'm going to set up for the next crypto talk. Web3. Everything is now being digitized. So I spoke about music and words. When we type into an email, that's digitized words, music, art. Everything's been digitized, but on a much bigger scale than this now. These are the foundational pieces that were being digitized. Now everything's being digitized, and that has huge implications for the geospatial industry. And this is going to be the topic of the next talk I do. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, come back to me. I've really blasted through some things. I've taken sort of a line of conversation, which was based on things I've been thinking out this week and some of the dots I've been trying to connect on my own head. Hopefully it connects some dots for you as well. Ask me questions, correct me if I've got something wrong in this, suggest other things I could add to this story. But thanks for joining this. These are my adventures in the crypto world, and I'll do another one very soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us on the Geospatial-Next channel. We're focused here on understanding the future of geospatial. That's both how we get to mainstream adoption of the technology and data, and how we start using blockchain and crypto to move things forward. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.